Hey there, this is JG. We're in Raid Shadow Legends tonight, and tonight we're going to be talking about Awakenings, Blessings, and Soulstones some more. So I have a bunch of new material coming up because I have been doing all kinds of research and analysis on this whole system, trying to figure out what is the ideal strategy here. What should you be spending your soul coins on? Should you be buying soulstones or essence? What should you be saving up for in the soul merchant, and things like that. And so I'm going to have a couple different videos on this. Tonight, I want to answer the question, what is a soulstone worth? So they've been selling some soulstone packs in the store, and I'm trying to get a handle on how much real money is it worth. Honestly, I've been free to play for about the last 6 months. I bought a little bit of stuff in my early game in Raid, but these days don't find a lot of things that look like a good deal for what I'd be willing to pay. So I'm unlikely to actually buy any of these, but I'd really like to get a sense for what is the relative value of some of these things. So even if you're a free-to-play player, sort of understanding what's valuable, and when you see tournaments or events where some of these resources show up as one of the possible rewards, how should you be valuing those? So let's dive in. All right, so naively, you might look at it and try to think that the relative value of these is based on their rarity. So, straightforwardly, if you have 50 immortal soulstones and you open them all, every 10 will get you 200 gold coins, and so that'll accumulate 1,000 so that you could buy an immortal soulstone. Similarly, if you had 1,600 immortal soulstones, you keep doing 50 at a time and getting the immortal soulstone, then pulling the immortal soulstone. Every 10 of those gets you 300 diamond coins. On average, 1,666 mortal soulstones would get you one eternal soulstone. In reality, it's actually a significantly smaller ratio than that. So most of the souls that you're going to get out of any one of these are going to be crap, and you're going to probably be selling them. And so you'll get a lot of gold and diamond coins just from selling off the things that you get. So in actuality, it takes about 28 mortal soulstones on average, selling everything that you get to get one immortal soulstone, and on average 204 mortal soulstones, selling everything that you get from both the mortal and the immortal ones along the way to get up to an eternal soulstone. So that's sort of a first guess at what the relative values of these might be. But that doesn't necessarily tell you about the value of them. That just tells you how often you get them. As it turns out, everything you can get from one of the larger soulstones, you can get from a mortal soulstone. And so if you have enough of them, they'll add up at some level. And so I think a better way of doing the analysis is actually looking at the pull rate. So look at the output that you get from this. So this is only a subset of the table, but here at the top, here we've got the rate of getting a 3-star legendary soul. In a mortal soulstone, that's 0.72%. In immortal, it's 6.24%. It's actually 0 in eternal because it only drops 5 and 6 star. But in this case, that means that your chances of getting a 3-star legendary soul are 8.67 times greater in an immortal soulstone than a mortal soulstone. The ones below that, in this case, are all 16x. And so generally what that means is if you pull 16 mortal soulstones, your chances of getting a 3-star through 6-star legendary are as good or better than if you pulled one immortal soulstone. Similarly, on the eternal side, you can see 5-star legendaries. You'd have to pull 177 mortals to make it equivalent. Actually, the 6 stars, the odds are slightly better. It's 133x. So this is what I look at as an idea of what's the ratio between these in terms of value. And so if you put it together, what you come out with is, I would say it's about 10x. 10 mortal soulstones are worth an immortal soulstone, and 144 are worth an eternal. That's the average value. So across all the different rarities that can drop, if you average them out, 10x is the average. 16x in this case is the high end. So as we saw in this previous table, for 6-star legendaries, you have to do up to 16 for it to be worth it. So depending on just how you're weighting the various rows in that table, somewhere between 10 and 16x is a pretty reasonable value for the relative worth of these. That's a lot smaller than the 50x in the rarity difference, or the 28x that we saw in the modified rarity difference. And yeah, 144 or 177 for Eternal Soulstones is much, much lower than the 1600 that we started with. And so I think this is a pretty realistic ratio to tell you basically the value that you're getting from these. How many of these soulstones do you need to reach that equivalent level of value? That said, then how much does the mortal soulstone cost? How much is it worth? And we can assume that the others are worth 10x and 144x that. So the very first way you can compute this is just think of what resources would you have to spend if you wanted to get another mortal soulstone. So for example, if you wanted to do 6 extra runs of Iron Twins at the highest level, you'd have to spend 150 gems to get 6 extra keys, and you'd have to spend almost a full energy refill, that costs 40 gems to get 130 energy. And the result is you'll get 871 silver coins on average, so roughly 87% of one mortal soulstone. And so if you put that together, you can sort of have a figure, some number of gems worth one mortal soulstone. Similarly, you can convert that into energy, see how much energy it's worth. And so the way I got the dollar values here, I used Chosen's calculator, which he's made available as a spreadsheet online. I'll put a link to it right up here. But that's just one experienced player, putting together a spreadsheet that indicates, when you have a package offer from Plarium, just a way of estimating how much is this worth. And so he's identified, here's how much I'll pay for energy, here's how much I'll pay for gems, etc. So using that number, we get to a value of about $2.50 for a mortal soulstone, up to 362 for an eternal soulstone. I don't know about you, that sounds pretty high to me. And the reason for that is because there's something that we haven't accounted for here. So in those 6 runs of Iron Twins, yes, we get an average of 871 silver coins, but we also get an average of 2.4 silver essence and 1 gold essence. So the $2.50 worth of energy and gems that we used, we got more than just silver coins out of it. We got another resource. How much are those resources worth? That's going to impact our final estimate. And so, the next question then is, how do you value essence relative to one another? The way that I did this was looking at the soul merchant prices. So a 1-star legendary perfect soul is 20 of the silver essence, going all the way up to 300 of the gold essence for a 6-star split soul in the soul merchant. And unfortunately, this doesn't really help you get an exchange rate between silver and gold, because every row is only either or. But what I did is look at this here, and the value between levels, there's a pretty consistent ratio here. It's 2x at the first level, 3x, 2.5x, 3x in between levels. And so what I did is just kind of fill that in. Let's take 2.5x. That seems to be kind of the middle value here. So if it were a 2.5x difference in value, from 4-star to 5-star, then that would say that if you could pay silver essence for a 5-star soul, you should pay about 750 silver essence. And so that gives us a conversion point. It's about 750 silver essence is worth 100 gold essence. So that gives you a ratio of 7.5 to 1 of silver essence to gold essence. And because they cost 50 of their corresponding coins, that also means for later calculations, a ratio of 7.5 from gold coins to diamond coins. So then if we're looking at the output that we can get from a mortal soulstone, so it costs us 1,000 silver coins, but what we get out of it is, number one, 20 gold coins guaranteed. Every 10 mortal soulstones gives you 200 gold coins, and so you get an average of 20 per stone. From selling that soul, on average, you'll get 35 gold coins from that. And in the rare cases where you get a 4-star to 6-star soul, you get an average of 2.7 diamond coins across the low rarity there. Again, using our 7.5 conversion rate, that means 20 gold coins. So that gives us a conversion rate from silver coins to gold coins. 1,000 silver coins gets you, the only thing you can spend it on is one mortal soulstone, and that soulstone has an output value of about 55 gold coins. So going back to the Iron Twins and trying to compute what this is all worth. So he drops across 6 runs an average of 871 silver coins. With our conversion rate, that is worth 49 gold coins. He drops an average of 2.4 of the silver essence. That's going to be worth 120 gold coins because you can just buy the essence at 50 gold coins apiece, and you get just a little bit under 1 gold essence on average. And using our conversion rate there, that's worth 360 gold coins. So one thing to note here is even though the drop rate on that gold essence is the lowest, it is so much more valuable than everything else that it's actually the lion's share of the total value you get from running the Iron Twins. So if you break down the percentage here, the silver coins are actually only worth 9% of the total value that you're getting from the Iron Twins. The majority of the value you get out of running the Iron Twins is actually in those essences. 23% from the silver essence you get, 68% of the total value comes out of that gold essence. So going back to our conversion of trying to figure out what this is worth in real money. So 6 extra runs of Iron Twins, it costs 150 gems for the keys, 37 gems for the energy, and it gives you 871 silver coins, but that only represents 9% of the total value you received from these. So if we take our earlier values and multiply it by 9%, that gives us a rough idea of what we paid for the mortal soulstone part of what we purchased here. And so that gives me a kind of a fair market value of about 23 cents for one mortal soulstone, about $2.30. That's the 10x factor, the 10 to 16x that we talked about earlier, for immortal, or $33 for an eternal soulstone. So that's kind of the final number that I came up with that I think is a pretty fair price. This would be a pretty reasonable buy price. I think the pack that I saw the other day, I think it was 10 mortal soulstones for, it was either $10 or $20. Either way, I think that's substantially above what I would be willing to pay. And I don't think that's a particularly good deal. Some prices you can derive from this. So this means every silver essence is worth about 21 cents. Every gold essence is worth about $1.55. Again, a 7.5 ratio between these. And finally, just some general points of comparison to get a gut sense for how these are relative to each other. These are equivalences just based on Chosen's spreadsheet again, and what he considered to be a good buy price for these other various resources, and comparing them to the buy prices that I computed here. So it says, first of all, that it's about 3 mortal soulstones to an ancient shard, which, if you have your own internal value of what an ancient shard is worth, then think of that as worth 3 mortal soulstones. And kind of doing the math out, I think this makes a good amount of sense. I did some rough calculations on, what is the chance of getting something good from an ancient shard, and what is the chance of getting something good from a soulstone. And one of the tricks with the soulstones is, you don't just need to get a good soul and a high rank soul, but you need to get a soul that for a champion that you have. And so with that extra factor, although you'll see more total legendary souls, than you will see legendary champions from an ancient shard, the ones that you'll be able to use out of that are going to be a lot smaller. So 3 to 1 there. In terms of the rough value of immortal soulstones, roughly equivalent to a void shard, based on the prices that Chosen was willing to pay there. And then the surprising one to me, the eternal soulstone is substantially more valuable than a sacred shard at this particular price. So it's worth basically 140 of the small soulstones, or that's worth in the ballpark of 50 ancient shards. So that comes out to something like 4 sacred shards. So Eternal Soulstone, definitely one of the most valuable resources you can see in the game right now, just based on your ability to find those 5 and 6 star souls. Again, it might vary for you. What you specifically are willing to pay for some of these resources is going to depend on where you are in the game and what you're interested in hunting. But I hope these values give you a rough idea of how much you're willing to spend, how much energy you're willing to put into chasing maybe an event reward or a tournament reward that includes some of these resources. So that's what I've got for the costs of all these soul related resources. Hope that was helpful for you. JG out.